Okay, Theo Erlangsen, Commencal Supreme DH
V5.
V5. Give us the rundown. Let's start with the cockpit. Give us the rundown from the cockpit.
From the cockpit, I've been running these Vibracore bars for a very long time now, probably since like 2019. Obviously they've got a nice sweep and back sweep and all of that, but the Vibracore inside really helps when you're in Europe with like braking bumps and vibrations and stuff like that. This has pretty much just been my cockpit for the past, like, I don't know, 3-4 years, set and forget. Same bars on all bikes. Short 40mm stem, and then just with like 10mm stem spaces below for Europe. I might even try go higher than that when I get to Europe and just like, yeah, try and get the bars really high up.
So like South Africa versus Europe, how much is the maximum you'd raise your bars?
I wouldn't really do them here because I kind of set this bike up last season, and like, from what you ride in Europe, if you're just comfortable, you ride it here. It doesn't have to be absolutely set up for South Africa. But even, I've only just recently been experimenting more and being like, okay, like you can even raise the bars even higher for certain tracks and things like that. Just for when there's like big drops into corners and stuff like that. It helps having higher bars. But then I might think about getting like a 50mm stem to just raise it and get it out. Because as soon as you raise it, it comes closer to you. And then, got these TRP brakes. I actually don't know why I have them on, but I was having some trouble with my brakes last year in like Ludenville, and the TRP guys were like, try these brakes, and I had an epic race in Leger and I loved them, and I've just been running them since. So hopefully I'll get them refreshed and whatever, could just run them throughout the World Cups again. I really like the way they stay consistent in braking bumps. In South Africa it's also not that much of a difference, but like in Europe there's lots of heavy braking bumps, and sometimes your brakes don't bite exactly like in a consistent place, and these were really good at like just biting consistently and stuff. So that with 220 rotors, I need all the stopping power I can get. So 220 rotors just helps with the heat management and the stopping power when you race overseas. Obviously you don't need that much rotors when you race in jonkershoek, but yeah, pretty much this is like the bike I just always run, you know what I mean?
And then your brake lever tilt, it's more on the vertical side than the French side of things.
Yeah. I should run them higher up like this when I go to Europe, but I've always just run them like that for now, and yeah, I just almost prefer them a bit down. Lots of the Frenchies and stuff have them super high up, but as many people have them, you know, pretty normal. So for South Africa it doesn't matter, but I try every now and again, I try to sneak them up and like kind of like surprise myself, and just like every time I unbox it I'm like, oh no, just a little bit higher up.
Do you find like it changes your body position too much when you change them?
Yeah, if I go too much then I feel like I'm riding like this, and then it doesn't feel right. So kind of what you're just going for, that kind of straight angle, and I often ride quite far off the back of a bike, so yeah.
Right, let's do, so stem is 50mm.
40mm now.
And bar width, do you know bar width?
Yeah, 800. They just come 800, and I'm quite broad shoulders and stuff, so I just run 800.
Okay, let's start like, how tall are you?
189.
189, and what do you weigh?
Like 88. On the bigger side of things.
Okay.
So yeah, wider bars, just like, I think I've got the broad enough shoulders to make it work.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just been running 800 and these bars for the past 4 years now. I've kind of forgotten about them.
Let's talk Fox 40. Volume spaces.
I think 5 volume spaces maybe. Yeah, pretty sure it's. I know the back is max volume spaces. This is probably 5, I think, because I think you can go to 7 or something like that. This is 5 and about 80 or 96 psi. Sometimes in South Africa here I'll drop it to like 95 or something like that, and then I think either 5 and 5 on the rebound, or maybe 5 and 4 on the rebound, and then the low speed compression fairly open. I was trying to experiment with that and stuff in New Zealand and more tougher tracks and stuff like that, but it's always just I always get lost in the puzzle and the fork. But yeah, the new dampener, this already felt way better than the last one, and now they've just come out with a new dampener. I'm sure I'll try and get in Poland and see how that works. I think that'll be different pressures and stuff like that, but yeah. Do
you use the high speed or VVC on this one?
Yeah, every now and again I play with it. I'm more of like set a good kind of thing in the beginning of the year, and then I'll just change it 1 or 2 from there throughout the season.
Okay. Let's do tyres. So your go-to tyre, obviously you're a Maxxis athlete, your go-to tyres, pressure front and rear.
So I usually run, like if I'm just riding any bike park, just like, you know, I'm like getting ready to go ride a bike park, I'll go 26-31, like 26 psi, 31 psi. And then if I'm riding, like if I'm like racing léger, which let's say, which is a little bit less rocky or something like that, I'll drop it to like 24 and 30 or something like that. I feel like if I ever go lower than 30, I start rolling on the back and I feel like I've got a puncture and stuff like that. So I can sometimes, yeah, I have a little bit, quite a big deficit between front and rear. Not many people do that, but like I feel like I ride quite hard on the back, so a lot of my weight's on the back, and I hated having a tire that's folding. So yeah, usually around 24, 25, 26, and then 31, 32.
And stupid question, like audience will understand later what I'm asking. Obviously no tubes, right?
Yeah, no tubes,
okay,
tubeless.
Not like Darkfest where you
sometimes
I'll
run tubes at Darkfest because then that's kind of set and forget.
Okay.
But yeah, tubeless, yeah, you just never want the puncture risk.
And is DHR2 your go-to, or do you
I always pretty much run DHR2 on the rear. I couldn't really find an Assegai now for this race, but 2.4 the DHR2's roll really good. And that's mainly what we're racing for in South Africa. And a 2.4 is like rolls really nice and tracks this hard pack stuff quite well. So for this race, like 2.4 DHR2 is good rolling speed, good tracking.
Okay. Wheels?
These are actually some sick new prototype Spank wheels. I think I'm the only guy kind of running them, and the guy, let's say Chase, unwillingly sent them to me before Hardline, and I built them up and went straight from Cape Town to Hardline with the prototype wheels. And I was even like, I probably shouldn't have done that, but like I could only take one wheel set to New Zealand, so I was like, well, let me just go with the wheel sets he won tested. And the whole of Hardline, the whole of Queenstown, New Zealand, like a month of trashing the bike, and like they still sweet to tighten the rear a little bit and the front a little bit every now and again, but like done a pretty savage job. Like first outing for the wheels straight to Hardline.
And so what's give us the spice on them? Obviously they look alley and like a slightly lower profile.
Aluminium, maybe a little bit lower profile, a little bit wider than the original, but I actually don't know that much. Chase just sent them to me and said, like, test them out, see what you mean. I know they're a little bit wider and supposed to be a little bit stronger.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm 88 kgs, so like testing rims with me is usually a pretty brutal job, and they've held out pretty well.
Sick.
So it's been good.
Inserts?
No tire inserts.
Okay. If you could change one thing about these tires, I know yesterday you told me a little trade secret that you were thinking of, so you don't have to reveal that, but if you could change one thing about these tires or about downhill tires in general, what would you be wanting more of or less of?
I'd like a front tire that's almost like it is now, but maybe a little bit more compliant, and then a rear tire with maybe even stiffer, just a little bit stiffer sidewalls, and maybe stiffer like vertical, horizontal, like impact like that, because I feel like your rear tire and your front tire don't really have the same job requirement. Like my rear tire gets abused and there's a lot of pressure on it. I feel like it would be nice if it was stiffer, and then there's almost no pressure on it. You're just trying to track loose stuff. So I feel like it could have almost an in-between between a downhill and a double down, and then like you almost need like a ZK or something stiffer on the rear or something.
So like same tread pattern, same
the tread pattern,
sizing.
all that. On the Maxxis, the tread pattern stuff, all of that's good. Like the volume and the sizing and the rolling speed, all of that's pretty perfect, and the compound.
Okay, right. Should we do drivetrain?
Yeah, the drivetrain on my bike doesn't get a lot of use. Wouldn't say it's the most important thing on my bike, but it's a Saint derailleur hanging on for dear life, and that's kind of, it just needs a couple pedal strokes out the gate and a couple pedal stroke back to the car park. So at this point it's nailing its job requirement. Obviously this idler is always sick. It gives it the magic carpet.
You've been on high pivots idler bikes for a long time now.
Yeah, probably
and you've seen like a bit of an evolution from super high to medium high.
Yeah, when the first Commencals came out, they were way up here. Everyone kind of caught on, and then they refined it to bring it down here. So this bike pedals a lot better than the original Supremes and stuff like that. And you basically, this is like a best of two different worlds, if that makes sense.
No O-chain required here?
Yeah, you can, I think, put on an O-chain, but it's like very marginal. Like how it is now, it's pretty ridiculously magic carpet.
Okay. And like any adjustment on the bike, like what do you play with the geometry?
So
adjust?
yeah, at World Cups I'll get more into like playing with it, but there's basically a flip chip on the shock.
Yeah.
That has 4 different modes of like less progressive, more progressive, and like better to pedal, whatever. There's 4 different modes here. I've pretty much stuck it in like the best at pedaling mode, because just the Commencal engineer was like, leave it in that mode. We've tested it. That's the best way to do it. So I've just left it there.
One day less in the gym every week. Right?
And then you can change the stiffness of this bar at the back here, so you can make it flexier or stiffer per track, and then different rear like lengths over there, and you make it shorter, longer, and then you can also play with the headset. So there's quite a lot of adjustability. To be honest, I was happy with this bike at the end of last year's World Cup season. I kind of just left it the same. As soon as we get to Poland, I'll begin the year-long puzzle again, start playing out stuff that I probably shouldn't.
Let me ask you this, like when high pivots first came out, it was sort of an outlier design, and now if you look at all the brands being ridden, like most of the brands or a lot of the brands are aluminium and high pivots. Does that like make you feel like, we were here first, we own the space, we know what
it is actually so funny over the last 4 years to see everyone go full circle from carbon fiber like production bikes to like, oh no, we're going to do like aluminium production bikes. I mean, aluminium prototyping, and whoa, this aluminium actually flexes really nicely and it rides quite well. Like, oh, maybe we'll just do like Specialized has gone back to aluminium, everyone's gone back to, okay, actually the prototype ones, no Trek's gone back to aluminium, all of that stuff. So yeah, I think a lot of bikes, they originally came out with like huge stiff carbon bikes and stiff carbon wheels and stuff like that, and then actually the bike was too stiff, whereas nowadays, I mean, even like, let's say the Markov team, they run aluminium bike with carbon wheels, so they've got a bit of stiffness, bit of compliance, and I feel like I've got like really good compliance all right, aluminium wheels, aluminium bike. And to be honest, for me, like a carbon bike is an amazing thing, but an aluminium bike for a general, like for me, I much prefer an aluminium bike, because I'll sometimes smash a rock with it or something like that, or like a lot, you can imagine my bikes get a lot of abuse, and like with a carbon bike, I'd have to check it all the time and be warrantying frames and this and that. Like, yes, you might have a warranty, but you're just going to be constantly warrantying them. Whereas this, like, you can just eat a rock with it and it's fine. So it's like really for like, if I'm traveling, you know, a lot and this and that, like the bike is so durable.
Strong, let's talk a bit about suspension sag. We didn't go there. So do you set your suspension up on sag or on feel?
No, set it up on sag. From there, get basically the volume spaces and that. I've only just recently learned that it's more about like the valving in the shock than like, you can play on the clicks and stuff like that, but unless you've got the actual shim stack and the valving perfect for that bike, that should be your base point, like perfect sag, perfect valving for the bike. Obviously, if you get a bike OEM or you buy a bike with components, it'll come with the right valving.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many things you can play around with suspension and stuff like that.
Do you play with rebound? Like it's winter here in South Africa, we're racing today at like 20 degrees, but when you go to Europe,
if I'm in like New Zealand, like I've been, then I'll play around and spend days trying to figure. But I always just get lost in the sauce. I always just like play too much until I actually got some wax settings, and I'm like, no, you just, because obviously I always give myself a hard, like I'll ride the first 2 laps crap, and then by the 3rd lap I'm warm and ripping, and I'm like, oh, those settings work, but like it doesn't work like that.
So you're one of those riders.
So I should be like trying to bracket it and this and that, but to be honest, if Geordie just gives me a good setup and I'm pretty comfy from there, then I'll just try ride that bike. From there I'll do 1 or 2 clicks and stuff.
No
pressure. So this is all, like I run 96 PSI and then 280 sometimes, like 282, between 280 and 285.
Okay.
And then can't really remember what the settings are on this. I've got a notes on my phone of settings, but...
And mullet wheel size, you prefer mullets?
Yeah.
Happy.
Just for Europe, it's just more, like when you get steep, you just want the clearance at your ass. You could race a 29 a year happily, but from what I could get, most of the top teams tried mullet in 29 and mullet in 29, and they all got more or less the same times with them both. But most of the riders just said they're more comfortable with a mullet because they've got more clearance. So if you can do the same time and be more comfortable, you just go mullet.
Correct. Okay, one more question on the bike, and then we've got some other questions for you. What one thing on the bike are you super fussy about?
The brakes. I'm so ridiculously particular about brakes.
Bite point and angles.
Yeah, bite point, and not even the angles, just the bite point. I hate having brakes, I hate especially having my rear bite further in than my front.
Okay.
I almost like to like drag a tiny bit of my rear or something like that. But I will, and brakes are always the hardest to get right until a certain point. So, but yeah, like even if this isn't biting nice, you can see this one, I've like wanged this one further out so that it bites like a little bit further out.
Okay.
So I get menstrual about brakes, but that's annoying.
Okay, so why don't you use this bike at Darkfest? Just tell the audience about that.
Just because the kinematics are made for like, I'm already at the highest, like almost as hard as this shock can go.
Okay.
Because the bike is meant to be like a supple race bike. Whereas let's say the Furious that I use is like a free ride bike, the kinematics get, stiffer, like quicker. So I can run like a 600 spring or 600 or 300 psi air shock on that and be really, really stiff. And basically this high pivot, you will understand, it goes longer throughout the travel, which is amazing for when you're hitting a fast rock garden or something like that. But through a tight radius lip, then you could probably ride it, but it's just a little bit better on the Furious.
It's a little bit less predictable on the pop.
Yeah, a little bit less. This is less predictable on the pop, but like that's on like, because it's like the jumps are massive and super steep.
Yeah,
you know
we're talking
what I mean?
we're talking best athletes in the world.
Yeah,
so
like any
0.5%. But
any other jumps like in Cape Town or anything, I'm actually more comfortable on this bike.
Yeah.
Like Helsen Big Line, I'm more comfortable on this bike because I spend more time on it.
Okay, interesting. Your favorite place to ride ever?
Probably Whistler.
Whistler.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love jumps, and that's just like jump heaven.
Okay. Your dream ride holiday, somewhere you haven't been?
I really want to go to Madeira and do some enduroing, just like vibe enduroing.
Might have to pedal there.
No, you free ride Madeira shuttles. Because like obviously I've ridden like, Morsey and most of the big bike parks, but it'd be sick to go for some fresh like enduro vibes and like on the beach vibes,
Lekker. Two more questions. What would make 2024 an outstanding season for you?
What would make it good?
Yeah, like
results.
Yeah, you free racer, free
like
World Cup
if
racer.
If I can even just do one final in the year at a World Cup, that'd be insane, because like the World Cup speed and level at the moment is just absurdly fast. So if you can crack it into a top 30 at a World Cup these days, you've beaten like 60 factory riders, which is quite sick. If I can do another top 10 at Hardline Wales, I'll be stoked on that. Okay. Another good couple of qualies at the World Cups, and then like maybe a semi-final or final at Leger or something like that. That's always a vibe.
Okay.
So yeah.
So a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
What about that Monster Energy series that's happening in the States?
Yes, I'm gonna try go to their one in California in August. I've never really I've raced once in snowshoe and I was like in and out. So it'd be really cool to try go to California and actually see more of America, not West Virginia, more like California vibes, and go ride around Santa Cruz and those areas. And it looks like, I think with the way people are managing the UCI World Cup now, a lot of people are there's becoming an opportunity for stuff. So that's why they're trying to do this American series. Hardline's trying to do more hardline. They want to do a hardline World Series. So there's going to be some series, kind of satellite series popping out of in between the World Cup and stuff. So I think that'll be the usual general basis, but everyone's going to be doing some fun events and stuff from now.
Last question, tips for riders heading to a bike park for a bike park holiday. So typically for South Africans or for riders from flatter regions going to a bike park, give us some tips on hand preparation, because hands take the biggest hammering.
Yes.
So what do you do and what do you know works?
So if you can you should ride a motocross bike before. That's the only thing you can do, but a lot of people don't have a motocross bike. I'd say definitely go there with anti-inflammatories, because you will need anti-inflammatories. Even for me, the first 2 days I have to have anti-inflammatories.
And just explain what actually gets sore. Is it the skin
you're going to be holding onto your bars so freaking tight through so much more vibration, and also not even vibration, big impacts through holes and corners and stuff like that, that you're just holding on so much. Your arms and hands just aren't used to that sort of vibration and conditioning. And I'd say a lot of the Saffers go there the first time and they're like, we need a ride from 9 in the morning until 5 in the evening when the lift closes. But for the first 2 days, wake up a little bit later. You will only be able to comfortably ride for max 3-4 hours that day. So don't panic and say you're going to ride for 9, because you can't ride for 9. Like taper your week out. Like if you absolutely ride 9 hours on the first day, you won't ride for the rest of the week.
Sound
so just
advice.
enjoy it and don't have a massive crash the first day and go home. That's the
Sick. Theo Erlangsen, thank you so much and good luck for 2024.
I'll need it.
And we look forward to seeing you killing it.
I'll try.
Nice one.
Cheers, mate.
Awesome, look at that rider. It's my son, just everybody, in case you wondered. Well done, Theo. And now I need to focus and see whether he cracks this. Izzy, come on, Theo. Pedal boy, don't be so lazy.